group by is a clause in SQL where it tells your SQL select query to group the output by a certain column or columns. And it's very common when you use aggregate functions, which we're going to cover in lessons after this one. So let's start. And I'll walk you through the solution here. So the question here, after at the bottom of each lesson, you have a practice question and a table schema telling you which tables you're working with. So if we, before going to the question, look at the tables, there's only one table here called employees, and column names are listed here: employee ID, first name, last name, department, salary, manager ID. So this is a table that's commonly found in many organizations. These are the data types for each column. They're not very relevant for this right now, but this is what the schema looks like. This is like a sample output, which we can also check by querying the table. So without focusing on the question right now, I just want to show you how to explore the database, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with as well. So there's our select, the asterisk, select our columns from. The table is employees. I'm just going to copy the table name. And I want to limit this just for efficiency to 5 rows. So this is just going to show us what the table actually looks like. So my output, these are the columns we went over, and some of the values. All right, so we are working with this table, employees. Now the question is asking us what? It's asking us to retrieve the department and total salary expenses. So in terms of company expenses, that would be the sum of salaries as total salary expenses. So it's giving us the name of the new column for each department. Then display the results in descending order based on this new column. Now, this phrase for each department is very a common phrase that I want you to look out for each X, for each Y, normally means group by whatever is here. All right. So for each department means we're going to have to group by department. So it's a retrieve department, total salary, and that's all we have to retrieve. So if we want to write some pseudocode, so let's say we first list what we want to retrieve, that would be the department, and sum of salaries for each department. Table is employees. And we need to order by sum of salaries, descending. All right. So from this pseudocode that came from this question, we can write the actual code. And I'm doing this slower on purpose for the first question. We're going to slightly speed up the next ones. This is just for anyone who hasn't started with SQL to know, to familiarize yourself with writing some pseudocode, interpreting table schemas, interpreting questions. So we need to retrieve these two. That means they go in the select statement. Now this one is actually a new column that we need to calculate. So it doesn't exist here. We do have salary, but this is sum of salaries. So we're gonna use an aggregate function to sum salaries. And we're gonna give a name to this column as they requested. I'm just copying it from here. So as this is an alias. I'm giving it an alias of total salary expenses. From the table is employees. All right. Now we want to sum salaries for each department. This is where we will use the group by department clause. All right. And the final part says to display descending order based on total salary expenses. So we need to use the order by total salary expenses and add the ESC, short for descending. So it shows from the highest salary per department to the lowest. And if we run this, we get the output. All right, so the total salary of everyone who works in finance is this one, in sales, this, and so on. They are sorted by total salary descending. So the highest expenses are for salaries are in the finance department, the lowest are in the HR department. Now, something that happens a lot is people use an aggregate function and forget to add a group by clause. And let's see what happens if we do that. Just run it like this. Other than getting the wrong answer, what's useful is we got some sort of an output. So a big hint that your mistake was not adding a group by clause is that you got just one value for the aggregate function, right? So the aggregate function normally has to work on a group level. So you're summing salaries by departments. So you're taking the works in finance, summing, getting the result. Everyone who works in sales, summing, getting the result, right? And so on. If you don't have the group by, the group is the whole table itself. So even though this says sales, this is meaningless. This number right here is the sum of all salaries. So if you were to sum these four up, you would get this number because the implicit group is the whole table unless you define it. So that's group by. I'm going to check the chat now if there are any questions. All right.